It's ADSN on the beat, where the data meets the street. James and Daniel in your feed, breaking down the code you need. Tech talk, ad game, and a little AI. Every week we got the chat on ADSN.
We've got Adam Ryan, CEO, co-founder of Workweek, on the pod this week. Adam, you're putting together, you tout as a media tech company that's building these professional communities and getting to where Google search and where people are typically looking for answers, but you're building private communities of experts in these professions and giving people real access to them, which I think is great. I'm a subscriber to a few of your creators. And we're going to talk today about a new product you just announced on the partnership side, which I think everyone listening is going to be very excited about, and I think we're going to be early users of, candidly. So welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me. Big fan of you guys covering the space and keeping us all updated. Happy to be here.
I appreciate you being here, man.
Yeah, and maybe in your own words, like, where did Workweek start? What was the need that you were trying to solve for?
So the original request was around, and like what we were thinking was this idea around the creator economy. Everybody in 2021 was talking about beauty and fashion influencers and all that, but no one was really focused on B2B content. And there was this what we called the paradox, experience paradox, where the more experience someone had in a job, in a practitioner that they were doing, the less likely they are to ever share that experience with anyone. And the loudest people on social media talking about things were normally 1 or 2 years experience of into that role. And that was what we wanted to solve, is how do we get more people that have experience in these professions, sharing content, sharing the insights that they had earned over time. And what that turned into today is that we've created professional communities. We're home to the 5 largest professional communities across fintech, HR, and a few others. And within that, there are members that create content. And so those are our Workweek creators. They have newsletters and podcasts that many people subscribe to. And then all of this is supported by ads, which is I think how this conversation came to be. But that's where we started and kind of how we got to where we are today.
And you've been in like the newsletter space kind of like longer than pretty much anyone. So, like, give us a little bit, like, give background before Workweek, just for people who don't follow
I started my career at Spiceworks, which was later bought by Ziff Davis. It was a professional community for IT leaders. So that's kind of where I got a little bit of a community experience. And then was at MyFitnessPal, which was bought by Under Armour. And then was the first hire at a company called The Hustle, which was a newsletter, kind of one of the first media companies. And we was our president, and we sold to HubSpot in February of 2021. And about 5 years ago this week, we started tinkering on the idea of Workweek and launched in November of 2021.
And how did you get, you talk about the creators. I mean, it is a serious list of people that you guys have in your community. Like, how did you even start this? It's kind of like a cold start problem, right? Like, so where do you what was the first step?
One, it's like helpful to just be one of those people. So to start, I started writing my own newsletter. I mean, I think like the best way to actually like have a customer is to be the customer, and going through that. And what I realized is that there's really 3 things I think that hold people back from creating content. One is time. We're busy. James are just talking is family and kids. The people with the most experience normally have a little bit more on their plate than just work. And the second of that is risk reward. Like, okay, I am an executive in e-com and I have a really good job. I make good money. Why would I want to like risk any of that by creating content publicly that could like risk anything that I do there or give me a headache on Monday when I go into work and I have to deal with that? And then lastly, which I think is like quite overlooked, is this insecurity. These people are used to very much leading the rooms that they're in, and internally they are seen as the leaders and often write emails, do memos. They're great content creators to their team. You immediately tell them anyone outside the company is looking at what they're creating. They're like, does anyone read that? Am I any good at that? And so those 3 buckets around what we wanted to solve for was really what we talked about at first, is how do we build a platform to help all 3 of those things? And we've made improvements every single year, working a little bit more towards that, and have a lot more to do. But solving that allowed us to really start to attract the types of creators we wanted. And we thought it'd take like 3-4 months to get 4 of them, and it took like 3 weeks, and it's kind of been that way ever since.
And I think that, I mean, it's such an interesting framing that like we're all content creators in our own micro universe, right? And I think that's like such a interesting way to kind of flip that narrative. And looking at your roster of the creators that are writing, I am curious, all of them have newsletters. What was it about newsletters that that's why you went all in there as opposed to creators in social that talk about business topics or podcasts or YouTube? And I know many of them have those, but all of these are newsletters.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I'd say a little bit of we know the game. My co-founder and I were at the Hustle together. We know that game. We know how to win that game, and thought that's how we could help these folks do that. That was without a doubt the confidence of just the experience there. But also, we've had this hyper focus on B2B only, and we named the company Workweek because like you can't do a consumer product when you're talking about your work week. And so, but the advantage of that is like we knew we were going to get into B2B advertising and on social, and I mean even podcasts today, and we think there's some evolutions there that can change. It's really difficult to do B2B advertising in a way that's measurable, in a way that's scalable, and that actually works. And I've seen it and believed it, that B2B advertising and newsletters is one of the best ways to actually influence a deal, educate a customer, top of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, you name it. And so kind of the both of those opportunities, I think, is like why we chose newsletters first, and then use that as the branch to go into other mediums and paths after that.
And how like self-fulfilling is it? Like for now that you have this newsletter network, like is your moat the fact that you have this network now? Like, are you gonna does it always just keep feeding on itself? Like, are you at that period yet, or is that still early on in that?
Yeah. So 2 years ago we launched. What happened was in 2022, 2023, when I say we were like inundated, it was constant people reaching out being like, hey, can I create content with you? And one of our strategies was exactly what Daniel was saying, is like, we believed really good leaders were naturally great content creators, where most of the other platforms were already looking at the people who were like really well established, really large names. And we'd work with those people too, but it was an important choice that we made. Was like our kind of main HR creator that we had worked with had never created content before publicly, ever. And now by far the largest newsletter in the space. If she says she's showing up in New York to host like an event, there's like 100 people that will show up like in 3 hours notice. Like she is like the celebrity of HR. And I think proving that we could do that with people that weren't big names and do that, create a lot of interest on the creator side. We turned that interest into the community platform in June of 2024. And so we built our own platform from the ground up. Every piece is ours, where you apply and get verified to get into this community. We use a way to understand your experience, et cetera. Once you're in there, there's opportunities to create content, to connect with other people. We have our own event registration platform, so members can host events using our platform. We can drive the right people there. And then that started to really build on itself. So I think 2 years after that today, we're really now at the point where it's starting to not just have creators wanting to work with us, but people really starting to create content without us holding them back from it.
And like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, how you've built this community, and I think built on these newsletters, and it gets into the ads piece, but one unique aspect, and you were telling us a little bit about this, newsletters, is every single person who's subscribed. You know their emails, their names, and in many cases, if you're vetting them, their titles and what companies they work for, which is data that is hard to get, and this is all opt-in. You're not scrubbing this or scraping it from somewhere else. And so as you started doing that, was that always in the back of your mind of like, if we get to 100,000 companies represented, which is what you have, over 100,000, which is insane, like we can then build a really big ads business? Like, was that always the vision?
So, I'd say probably deep down, but as we all have, we like hesitations at times around ads in 2021, 2022. It was like, what's the best thing to do here? We have all this trust. But I was on the team when Kevin Plank had bought MyFitnessPal. It was like data is the new oil. I was like, and so that's where I was definitely raised and what I believe. And we knew the power that we had with that. We launched the communities in June of 2024. And in July of 2024, we started building our ad platform. So it didn't take long for us to basically say, hey, this is pretty special. We have a lot of unique data. We also have enough engagement consistently to make sure that data doesn't decay and stay up to date, which is a huge issue also in B2B. And so, it took about a month once we launched the community and started seeing that data come in.
And is your vision over time, in some ways, it's kind of a decentralized social network in a weird way, right? It's like a federated model, but like if you like in aggregate, it starts to look now like maybe this is what the next iteration of LinkedIn kind of is. You could, like squint and sort of see it like that. Do you think you'll stay kind of federated, or do you think over time, like, could you imagine a world where like this is, I know like I'm reading the newsletter stuff, but like this becomes like my app or like my CNBC almost, like where does it?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think who we're disrupting is like trade associations from 40 years ago, not the private equity gutted ones, but like the ones that people actually like couldn't wait to get the magazine, that couldn't wait to see what was in there. And it was like this relevance and relatability that like, if you were in this profession, your spouse didn't even understand what was on the cover, and you're like, what? You don't get that? Like that feeling has gone away with horizontal open social platforms. Like you don't get that on social anywhere. And I think that's really what we see the opportunity to start to carve our own version out that, which using modern tools, still allowing, a feed and newsletter platforms, et cetera, within that. But that's really the feeling that we want to bring back to people that we think has been missing in this kind of Web 2 era of social media.
And would that be like as niche? Like, do you actually see this being like extreme? Like right now you're in a bunch of categories that like are pretty close to like, as like an operator, it's like, okay, finance, HR, marketing. It's like they're verticals, but they're big verticals. Do you think you move into like dentistry and like, I don't know, making up, whatever.
Someone just pitched me today, tattoo shops. I think it's, if I could write a book of categories that have been pitched, it would be pretty long. There's definitely, from a platform perspective, we can spin a new one up and no problem. The reality is what we assess on that is, one, is this actually a group of people that want to connect? Is there a gap here? And I think there are really good opportunities that other people have had that we're not going to go after those spaces because there's already like really natural connections. There's just plenty of spots that there's a wide open green field for us to go. And then the other one is we don't charge. So if you look at a matrix of executive communities and, niche, normally that immediately goes to subscription. Normally it's low five figures to join. We have an acceptance rate in some of our communities of 16%, but we charge nothing. And so instead of using a credit card to filter, we use their identity, and that allows us to, have great data and right relevance, but it also means we need to have a really good ads business. So I also am kind of like assessing when we think about our next communities, what pockets of advertising, B2B advertising dollars are we not able to reach yet, and could we capitalize on it in that way?
Are you doing the tattoo shops or no?
QuickBooks would probably love to sponsor that, but I don't think it's necessarily the TAM that we'll go after for the next one.
Yeah, fair.
And all right, so let's get into the announcement from this week. So you announced kind of the wide kind of adoption of the partner program, the partner platform that's available to kind of everyone reaching out. You're doing a free analysis to match kind of your subscribers against companies. Like, what are you seeing from the level of interest in the market to something like this?
Yeah. Newsletter advertising is the very best place for trusted content marketing to actually change. If you have a long sales cycle, you can start to move up the consideration path and better than almost any other channel. That's what we believe. That's like how we see that, particularly when you can start to use trusted voices from creators in that space. There's just never been a way for anyone to know if it works. And I think you guys may probably own a budget or two. if you can't prove it works, sooner or later, some overlord cuts it. And I think what we wanted to be able to do was start to allow marketers to invest in newsletters as a channel and start to get those signals back to their CRM. And we've been in beta now for 18 plus months. We've seen match rates now of Fortune 500 companies at 44% of their CRM reaching it. So we have great scale through the density of our communities and reaching the right people. But more importantly, when that person clicks that ad or does some signal that used to just be a click-through rate or an open rate, we can now send that signal to their CRM. And what we've seen is sales is taking credit for 3 or 4x the amount of leads that they should probably be getting credit for. Marketing is doing a way better job than they're ever getting attributed. And in newsletter advertising, that's never really been an opportunity to prove that. And that's what this platform does.
And do you envision for us, like on like the TV side, so much of this has moved like incrementality testing, and we have an API and it's integrated with like House and Measured and those guys. Like, do you think that's sort of the next sort of phase of this? Like, do you
Absolutely.
try? Yeah, like this is a channel, and you're
we're comparing against folks not with exposed on ads and looking at sales cycles. It's shortening. Win rate is increasing. ACV. We want to bring confidence and conviction to CMOs of the largest B2B media companies in the world and be like, I can actually put money here and know that it works. And I think the difference that has always existed in consumer, that sales cycle is one click away. Like AppLovin is really lucky that they could just do that. And like in one click, that conversion rate's right there. GE selling an MRI machine doesn't exactly work the same process. And so no one's really been able to tackle that. And that's what we're doing with our identity graph and the ad platform.
And will you expand outside of your O&O footprint? Like, will you start, getting into Spotify ads and universal ads, like stuff like that, or you think you stay owned and operated for now?
We have not announced or made plans to expand outside of it, but we think our deterministic graph is something that a lot of other channels where our clients are spending money could utilize and have access to that, and a lot of creators are getting not even a tenth of the credit of the impact and influence that they're having with advertising. So we think what we've been able to build can help people far more than the communities that we own and operate today. But as of now, we're just focused on winning that.
Tattoo shop, no. Reach extension, probably. No comment.
Some may say that's a better move.
I'm curious. You guys have, like we talked about, 100,000 companies represented, a little under 1 million subscribers. Which, again, when we talk about social, people look at that and like 1 million. But then when you talk about how you're talking about, these are decision makers, these are senior people, exactly who they are. And one thing that you talk about a lot when you talked about the partner platform and Workweek is that, reaching 500 of the right people is so much more powerful than reaching 10,000, 50,000, 1 million of just people. And
absolutely. One of our categories is hospital and health systems. There are 225 health systems in the United States. And there are people out there that will then have the guts to tell a marketer, like, your ad got 2,000 clicks. It's like, cool. Like, who? And there's this like huge focus, and it's almost like the old page view problem that websites had for a long time, where like they're just focused on how many things and using metrics that are essentially vanity. And we don't count a click in our ad platform unless we can tell you exactly who they are. And that was painful at first, and then it gives you a nice motivation to improve that match rate and move up and really focus on the graph. But that there's something around focusing on, we are driving and influencing the right people that are your customers and starting that way. And the industry, particularly I think in B2B, is pretty far behind there.
How much pushback? Oh, sorry. Here you go.
Real quick follow-up. What are these? Thanks. You're so nice today. Thank you. Just letting me go. What do these sponsorships look like, right? Like when somebody comes on board and they want to reach kind of that healthcare audience, like what do the sponsorship look like? What do the ads look like? Like how do they get embedded?
Yeah, so we charge everything on a CPM today. I think until there's a better way to have some sort of performance in B2B, we haven't quite figured that out, but it's a fun challenge to think about. But CPMs is the most honest way to reflect, like, if it works, we can increase our price, and if it doesn't, we can decrease it. And that's we're trying to create a win-win-win scenario here and match that. And so that's how we charge. Our ads are all most of our advertising is done through newsletters. So you have the brief, you have your own brief in our ad platform. Then we have an AI assisted tool to help the creative get created. And we're able to then assess based on the goals you have, whether it's we have a closed lost account and want to win that back, or we want to drive net new leads, top of funnel. We can start to work and create that creative. And then we are also able to do that in the voice of the creator in the newsletter. So really crossing all three of those of the right goals of the client, the brief that they have of the product, and then the voice of the creator.
And when you talk about like the healthcare system one, how hard was it to get them to actually connect the CRM data? Like these pretty regulated industries, big enterprises, has that been like a pretty tough process?
You'd be shocked how not hard it's been.
Really?
And it's actually like very simple. It's kind of like when we had success with creators early on, it was like we just kind of like recognized and had empathy that like what they were going through. These marketers are on the hot seat, man. Like it's like they're the average tenure of a CMO at an enterprise company lasts 18 months. The sales cycle's that long. They can't even prove one sales cycle of work before they're basically gone. Yeah. Right? And so there is a huge, huge hunger for attribution and of how can we prove that this actually worked in a way that we know, like old school lead gen, which is how most of these folks have done. We think that wasn't because of intent. It's not to arm the sales team to like sell tomorrow. Those people just put their email in for a thing they wanted to read. What it was for was visibility into the CRM. It showed the team, look, I did something, that person later bought this thing, I get credit. And so, without ever having to disclose email, first and last name, we found a way to be able to do that and help marketers start to get visibility into the impact that they have so they don't get fired. And I think that's actually something that is not said enough out loud. And I think they have one of the hardest jobs out there because of it.
And are these CMOs, like, are they, my career's always been more sort of ads and like more tech versus, I guess, like true enterprise businesses. Like, are they pretty sophisticated? Like, are they looking at it and they're like CAC to LTV, like they're like thinking of it, or are you educating them of new ways to think about it now that they have better data, I guess?
I'd say operationally for us, anytime with newsletters, open rate's been around since late 90s. It's become the benchmark, right? So like even at the Hustle, like I'd be like, hey, we send 6 times a week and I have a 40%, 45% total open rate. And at the time, everyone was like, wow, that's amazing. MailChimp would put out a standard report. And today, like bots have completely taken over emails. We see it being well north of like 95% of clicks are basically bots today. So benchmarks are out the window. And so that's the first point of education, is like understanding how advertising and newsletter should work. And then, once it gets to their CRM data, and it varies, right? Like my actual challenge to the marketers and to the team is, however you assess this today, let's assess it the same way. I'm not trying to like change the way you do attribution. I'm just trying to give you more signals of what that should be. Because some folks are incredibly sophisticated. They have great multi-measurement. They pay $300,000 for fancy tools that tell them all sorts of things, and other people are not quite there. And so we're trying to meet the customer a little bit where they are and just help them get more signals that they've never had before.
Well, Adam, I mean, this is, I think for anyone listening, like, and this is fascinating. I think we've been bullish on newsletters. We have our own newsletter. I think to your point, like it unlocks so much of a knowledge that like it just can't be found through search or even through AI. Like you're hearing from real people, seeing real personalities. So I love that. Where can advertisers and marketers learn more about this, this platform and working with you guys? Where can they get in touch and learn more?
Advertising.workweek.com. We have banking, fintech, HR, e-commerce, B2B marketers and hospital and health systems. So if you have a product that reaches any of those folks, those are our personas that we can help you reach in a really efficient way, in a way that you can still be proud of through the content. So yeah, would love to have some people on this call listen, reach out.
Love it. And before we go, just as you're talking, I was just thinking about this. Have you seen, so the bot increases, that's a crazy stat. Are you seeing behavior shift in terms of overall emails opened as AI has picked up? Like, is the behavior changing or not yet?
No, yeah. I mean, like in 2016, 17, Morning Brew, The Hustle, and The Skin, which were like some of the better newsletters from like an engagement perspective, our unique open rates were like 18 to 25%. Today, they're, for most platforms that are ESPs that are saying what your open rate is, it's basically almost double. That's not true. It's just bots. And the problem is the email platforms all have a different way to assess those bots through their own algorithm, but their customers blame them if their open rate is lower. So it's been this inflationary period of like 10 years where email platforms don't want to be the ones to be like, we're going to be the ones that are honest. And, we made our own, so we take raw data in, we created our own algorithm. I put it open source on GitHub. So our marketers know we're transparent about it. And it is not as high as everyone else's because it's actually real. And if they did real, we'd be by far the highest. And, but it's happening everywhere. Apple Mail obviously messed a lot of that up as well. There's been quite a big change of inflated metrics in the last 10 years.
Crazy. Well, I appreciate you doing it the honest way, and maybe one day we can get invited to be on Workweek as creators. We gotta keep on making creators.
Between you and Eric from Aperium, and I think we'd have a hell of a ad tech community if we could get a few guys going.
Sign us up.
I love that. Well, thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right, man. Appreciate the time. Take care.
It's ADS in on the beat, where the data meets the street. James and Daniel in your feed, breaking down the code you need. Tech talk, ad game, and a little AI. Every week we got the chat on ADSN.